Hey guys, welcome to another Emii Creations video, and today we're going to go over how to make a walk cycle even though you have no animation experience, and how to prevent foot sliding if you're going to put it into something like a 2D game engine or something like Stream Avatars. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to figure out is the distance in pixel your character moves in 1 second. So you might have to throw maybe a cube or a square or a circle or even a still figure into your game and move it around to test it out if you haven't figured that out already. And then we're going to take whatever game units it gets and convert that into pixel format, because we're going to use that as a basis for our animation. So after you get that figure, what you're going to do is multiply it by 8/10. And this is because we are only going to animate 16 out of the 24 frames per second, and that ends up being 8/10 of a second. So I'm going to use the figure 500 pixels. I want my character to walk 500 pixels in 2 strides in 1 second, and I'm going to multiply that 500 pixels by 8/10, and that's going to end up being 400. So you're going to see me make my file to be 400 pixels across. So the first thing that we're going to do is create a file that's 400 by 400 pixels wide, because we determined we want our character to move 400 spaces across. And I always like to do a square just in case your character is a bit taller. You can always change the height of it based on how your character looks and how they end up fitting into the box. So we're also going to use this reference. References are always great for any animator. We're going to be using this specific reference, and this reference comes from actually a book called The Animator Survival Kit by Richard Williams. Now this has always been a highly recommended book. This picture that we're using in this Photoshop file is specifically page 109, and it has all the details you need to know to get started in animation, to get good at animation, and just great pickup if you're interested in that world. So we're gonna get started here, and after we drag this file in, and I'm using the one that's on 8 because, like I said, we're doing the 16 frame version. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna put in a new guide. And this guide is gonna be vertical, and it's gonna be right in the middle at the 200 pixel mark. And the reason we're gonna be doing that is because we're gonna use 2 strides to get to 400. So one side is gonna be 1 stride, the other side is going to be the other stride. So now we can scale our reference, and we want our character's 1 stride to be right across one side. So we're going to use the heel, where the heel hits the ground. So as you see, the heel on this side and the heel hits the ground right here. There's going to be some like where they hit the very top, so this should be perfect. So after we got this properly sized, we can drag it out of the artboard so we can see the full reference, and we're gonna start drawing on top of it. So I've already prepared my timeline, and if you don't know how to use Photoshop's timeline tool, I have a great video that I'll link up in the corner that shows you how to get started with all that so you're not left behind. We're gonna use 24 frames per second. So make sure to change your frame rate before you get started. And then we're gonna set the reference to 16 frames because that's the frame amount we want. I already prepped our sketch layer, and I already prepped our first frame down here. We're gonna be doing an Among Us character. And then we're gonna be using exactly this template. And this is really great because you can follow almost exactly where this character is. Now the most important part of the character as you're drawing it is going to be the heels and the toes. Now Among Us characters don't really have heels and toes, but I'm gonna make sure to make a very tiny version for them. It helps them look more like they're walking. So they have the flick So after we've drawn our very simple Among Us character, we can copy him and put him in our artboard. I want to make sure he sits on one side. So now that we've drawn the first frame, we can actually use the same one outside of the artboard to draw the second frame. And let me show you. I made his head part, his eye part, to have this circle right in here. So I have a good reference of where the head should be. And as you can see, that the second frame is a little lower than the first frame. I guess I can move the bottom part of his body up so it hits the walk line like that. And then we're going to erase the foot because we need to redraw the foot for every frame to have it match the reference. So Among Us characters have great round feet, so we're gonna make sure to make that look the same. So I realized it might be easier to have the frames pre-prepared, so I have it down here in the video group, all of the frames that I'm gonna be needing. So now we copy the second frame, and you can turn on onion skinning to help you. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna match up the heels. So right here, that's where you should match it up. And we go back up here, and then we're gonna move this guy right over and do the same process. So he's a little taller in this one, so I'm just gonna move his upper body so the head fits in the same location. I have a little reference dot for where I'm putting the head. As you can see, he got really tall, right? So this is kind of the stretch, one of the stretch up frames. And do keep in mind which foot is in the front and which foot is in the back. Just matching the reference. And then we're gonna go down to our third frame. We're gonna paste it right in and make sure the heels are matching, and we can drag him over for the next frame. And then we're gonna move his body up and forward. Placement of the head should match the reference. And we're gonna go down here to frame 4 and then paste him right in. Try to match the foot placement. And then we actually go back to the first pose. So this is the same pose except switching feet. So what you can do is you can copy all of these and place them like this, and then just make sure they match. So I have this frame and this. So these are the ones we've already drawn, but we need to switch the foot over. So we can we can make it look like he's facing the other direction more. So this frame is done. So we put the new frame that we just drawn right into the file, and we try to match where the toe should be. And then the heel is gonna go to the very end of the frame, and he's just gonna walk out, which is fine for now. And we're gonna do the same with the rest of the frames. So we're gonna move the eyes over so it looks like he's looking more towards the other side. We're gonna draw the backpack as though we're looking at more towards the back of the body. And we're gonna put it in, matching where the toes should be and where the, more so where the heel is supposed to go, like that. So this one is more important about which foot is in the front. So this is the one we drew previously. So after we edit the eyes and the backpack, we need to also edit the foot. So the foot that is up needs to now be in the front, like that. And that's it. Matching where the heel is supposed to go. Awesome. And then now we're down to our last one. So same thing, move the eyes over, draw the backpack. And then same deal with this frame, we need this foot to be in the front this time. Oops. Trying to match the reference as close as possible. Now we can put it into the frame. You can't see him, but that's okay. So what it's gonna look like, let's turn off the onion skin, and then we're gonna play 8 frames. Do you see how he's walking across? Perfect. So actually, we only need 8 frames. And we're gonna animate on 2s. So let's do that. Put all the frames on 2. So now it looks like a good speed. This is the calculations we did earlier, where they take 2 steps in a 16 frame interval, and they cross the 400 pixels. So this artboard right here is 400 pixels, and we're just making sure that within the 16th frame, he's walking all the way across. Alrighty. So after we have and make sure that he's fully walking across the 400 pixels, we can now prepare the sprite sheet frame version. So to prepare this for sprite sheet making, you're gonna have to move all your frames into the middle. So the first frame and the 5th frame are the split leg frame, and they need to straddle the blue line. So as you see, they're straddling the blue line. And then the 3rd frame and the 7th frame, so let's do 3rd and 7th, the ones where it's in between the split leg frames, they're gonna have their foot straddle the blue line. So as you can see right here, their foot pad is in the middle, like perpendicular to the blue line, like that. So it's right in the middle. So that's the 3rd frame and the 7th frame. And I just realized this one's not straddling it, so we're gonna move it over. So as you can see, now it's correct. And then the other frames that we haven't moved are the in-between frames. So they're gonna be the ones that have the heel in the middle of the 2 frames surrounding them. So I put my onion skin setting on frames before 2, frames before 2 and frames after 1, so we can see all the frames. And what I mean by it needs to be between the 2 heels is, so this, the lighter one, is the 1st frame, and the darker one back here is the 3rd frame. And this heel right here needs to be in the middle of the 2 arrows that I've just drawn. And as you can see, it's pretty much in the middle. So the same thing with the fourth frame. This is also an in-between frame. So here's the heel, and here is another heel. And we want our heel right here to be in the middle of these two arrows. It looks good. And then now we see if the sixth frame is in the right place. So here's heel, heel, and yep, it's in the middle. And the eighth frame is a little hard to tell. So the way it works is your walk cycle is looped. You're actually going to be returning to the first frame. So you can actually put number 1 in the very back right here to represent the split frame that's going to be right after the 8th frame. And that way we have a reference of where the heel is supposed to be. Alright, so here's heel number 1, and here's heel number 2. And as we see, I moved it right into the middle of those two arrows. Alright, let's turn off onion skin and let's see what it looks like. Now he looks like he's walking in the middle. We're gonna turn on loop playback so we can have a walk cycle. I just realized we need to erase our references. Alright, now we can look at it. Pretty good. So that's how it looks. So this should walk at the speed of 500 pixels in a second. Hopefully that wasn't too complicated. Let me know if you have any questions on the process. So to recap, we have to animate him walking across the actual 400 pixels, and then we move all the frames to the middle of the artboard or the file so that it becomes like an actual walk cycle loop. And after we move it into the middle of the artboard, we can use our technique of building sprite sheets that I have and will link in the corner, how to build sprite sheets on Photoshop to build our sprite sheets out. So if you're interested in moving to that next step, go ahead and head over to that video and I'll see you there. If this is all you came for, I hope this is helpful to you. I hope it helped your game development or your stream avatar development. If you have any questions, concerns, or have any issues with the process, be sure to drop that in the comments below. I am also on Twitch 3 days a week, so if you want live tutorial interaction, me to like go on and animate and show you what I'm talking about in real time, that's always also an option for you. Be sure to check out the description below for the link and my schedule. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for staying and watching. And I will have more wonderful tutorials for you later on. So be sure to click that subscribe button and the alert bell.